Dear Buttercup, it could have been a normal day, but then I met some crazy travelers, and somehow I may have ended up at an Aghori Ashram. Late morning, I headed to Asigat to meet a fellow couch surfer from Texas. I went to Kashi Annapurna bookshop, which felt like a temple, not just because I'm an avid reader and worship books, but because one needs to take off their shoes when entering. I started reading a book on Varanasi, and of course ended up buying it because I was already hooked. Hardly had we been chatting with my Texan friend for a few minutes in my favorite cafe when a guy from India asked to join in, as the topic was astrology and he was also interested. I ended up getting a 3-hour-long astrology for beginners lecture. It was interesting because I have zero knowledge in the field, and I did get some food for thought when my natal chart was read. Then the Indian friend decided to go for Ganga Aarti, while the Texan friend had a recommendation to go to a small temple at the other side of the river. I decided to go for that since it sounded like the kind of local experience that I'm always seeking when I'm traveling. In retrospect, the first sign that we shouldn't be heading to this place should have been that neither the tuk-tuk drivers nor the locals they were asking for help knew about it. They insisted that it doesn't exist. We walked in the dark through some trees and then at the riverbank. At this point, I wondered aloud whether my newfound friend is a serial killer, but he reassured me that it's not in his astrological chart. Completely convinced, I continued, and we did find the temple. It was basically a big tent with fire burning in the middle and a bunch of god statues decorated with flowers and fruits as offerings in the front. A few women were sitting on the left, 1 or 2 men on the right. We were separated. For a while, I sat there quietly, noticing that right next to me, at the side of the fireplace, there's a skull. I kept looking around. I saw a bunch more among the gods. I really hope they weren't real, especially because they weren't the size of skulls of full-grown adults. Then the sadhu, the holy man of the temple, made me sit with my hands in a certain position and my eyes closed and told me to chant Om. I sat there for what felt like forever, trying to chant instead of choking on the smoke coming from the fire right in my direction. At one point, the sadhu made me stand up, put his hand on my head, also putting some red powder on my forehead. At another point, he gave me some flower petals to eat. They came from the offerings to the gods and didn't seem very hygienic, but I accepted it anyway. As I sat back and was trying to relax and just go with it, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was my Texan friend, and all he said was, "We are going." His tone made me follow him without questions. Later I learned that while my experience was just weird, his was more creepy and based on our value system also inappropriate. Anyway, it's not my story to tell. Once we were safely back in our cafe and our Indian friend joined us, he told us that he didn't like the idea of us going to this temple because he checked it online and it seemed like an Aghori Ashram. The Aghori are sadhus infamous for their unconventional extreme practices. On the other hand, they normally live far away from society, so I kinda doubt that this guy was a real Aghori. Either way, I told my Indian friend that maybe next time he can mention his doubts when us crazy travelers are planning something that doesn't seem like a good idea to someone more familiar with the country. In the end, we all agreed that at least we have a great story to tell. With love, Butter.